Path needs to die, bro.
My sights down another.
No way! I had 4 health. She's
Confirmed kill.
one that just got res. Yeah.
Reloading. You'll be alright. I gotcha. Got our squad mate scanner.
Sorry, dude.
Headed for the open door.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name is Vinsanity if you guys are new, and welcome back to another Apex Legends video. Today we're going to be discussing in some depth the settings I've been using for Season 6 of Apex Legends, why I use these settings, and what I think are really the best settings for controller players to use. Your settings are really the base of everything in Apex, so it's important to find a layout that fits your playstyle and helps you optimize both movement and accuracy, which are really the two most important aspects of the game. In the background, I have a pretty fun rank gameplay now that I'm back on the rank grind. Before I get into the video, if you're new, consider dropping a like and subscribing. I'm going to be uploading a lot of educational Apex content targeted for console players. Without further delay, let's get right into breaking down my recommended settings for Season 6 of Apex Legends. So I'd like to just preface this discussion by saying that your settings definitely depend a lot on your playstyle and your preferences, even your past gaming experience. All sorts of factors really influence which settings work best for you, so there's definitely no one-size-fits-all prescription when it comes to settings. That said, there's definitely some settings that I think are must-have and are kind of non-negotiable. I'm going to go over them. So to kick things off, I have Interact Prompt Style on default. This option just gives you a bit more information about items you see on the ground, but it's really not distracting at all. Button hints I have on, but this really doesn't matter. It just indicates on the bottom of the screen the button to press to accomplish certain tasks. So for example, on your secondary gun, you'll see a triangle just to indicate to swap guns you press triangle. If you're an experienced player, this really doesn't matter. I just never really took the time to turn it off. Next up, the crosshair damage feedback setting does exactly what it sounds like. It basically registers when you hit a shot. You'll see that X that pops up on the screen. I personally find this feedback pretty helpful, but some people think it looks a little cleaner without having it on, so I definitely think this is kind of one of those options that totally comes down to preference. Damage numbers I have on stacking. I think this is pretty non-negotiable. This basically adds up all your damage for you, so you don't have to do the math in the heat of a gunfight, so I highly recommend having this on stacking. So ping opacity I have on default, because I really haven't come across any scenario where having a faded ping is super helpful, but some people like to have it on just to see through their pings, so try it out on faded if you want. I don't think it's super relevant. Obituaries, you can have this on or off, it doesn't really matter. This just lets you see players' badges and kills on their boxes. Minimap rotation, I recommend having an off, which is the default setting. Basically, if you turn the setting on, it makes it so that when you turn your player a certain direction, the minimap will rotate that same way in parallel. So if you turn to the right, if you look at your minimap, it will also rotate in that direction. In most battle royales and games in general, this doesn't really happen, so I think it's a bit strange to look at it like that, but it does come down to preference. Some people like it. So next, weapon autocycle on empty I have on. This basically just switches your gun if you run out of ammo. I think this is actually pretty useful because sometimes you just don't recognize when you're really low on ammunition, so this provides a bit of a safeguard. I also have auto sprint on. Personally, I think turning auto sprint on can really help improve your movement, because basically when you push your stick forward, you'll be sprinting by default. I've also noticed that since turning this on, I got a lot fewer dead slides and my movement just feels a lot smoother. It saves your thumb a bit of work as well. And another thing is that if you have an heirloom, having auto sprint on allows you to kind of do that trick where you can spin your heirloom over and over, like with the Wraith Kunai. So I think it's worth trying out. If you don't have auto sprint on, I'd try it out. It's not a huge change, but I do think it makes movement feel a little smoother, and it's also a little easier on your fingers. Double tap sprint I have off, obviously seeing that I have auto sprint on, so we really don't need to have double tap on.
I got 35.
So incoming damage feedback I have on 3D, which is pretty much the basic default option. Taking damage closes deathbox menu should be off in my opinion. This is actually a pretty important setting. So if you want to be able to effectively shield swap in a gunfight on console, having this setting off will improve your chances of being able to do so. If this is on and you go to swap shields during a fight, if you get hit by just one bullet, you'll be immediately pulled out of the box. So having this on off makes it so that you can quickly shield swap even if you take a little bit of damage and get a fresh armor, which can improve your chances of winning the fight. Hop up, pop up I have on by default. I don't really notice a difference when I tinker with the settings, so I'm not really exactly sure what it does, and it definitely doesn't seem like a huge deal. Streamer mode I have off because I want people to see my PSN name so they can check out my channel, and usage sharing I have enabled because I don't really care if Respawn developers get my data. It actually might help them. They seem like they're pretty responsive based on what the data looks like, so I don't really mind. So next up, for colorblind mode, I actually have it on Tritanopia. This may look a bit weird, but I think this setting can actually help you see a lot more clearly on the map as the colors become a lot more vibrant. Just for the record, I'm not colorblind, but a lot of people have actually been doing this. I'm not going to get into the reasoning behind it, but there's been several vids that do a really good job at explaining it, so I'll link those on the top of the screen if you want to check them out. So to finish up the gameplay settings, I also have subtitles off, and subtitle size therefore doesn't really matter, and I have enable accessible chat features off. So on to controller settings. First off, for button layout, I play on a custom loadout which basically equates to tactical controls if you ever played Call of Duty. All this really does is swap your melee and crouch controls. These mappings make it so that you can crouch and slide without taking your right thumb off of the right stick. If you're not playing on these settings or other button mappings that make it so that you can crouch or slide without it affecting your aim, I highly recommend trying out some new settings. Stick layout I have on default, and reload, interact, reload button I have on tap because obviously I don't want to have to hold down square to reload my gun as it takes a lot longer. So crouch button I currently have on toggle, but I've recently been experimenting with having it on hold. I think you can get the rhythm and timing down with hold. You can actually crouch spam a lot faster, but I just haven't perfected this setting out yet. Aim button I use hold just because I've used this from Call of Duty and other games, so I like the feel of having to hold down L2 to aim. Trigger dead zones I have on none. I think this is actually a pretty important one. Basically, all trigger dead zones refer to is the delay between when you tap your trigger and when your gun starts shooting. So having this on none makes it so that as soon as you hit the trigger, your gun's going to start shooting. Whereas if it's on max, there'll be a delay and it'll take a lot longer between when you press R2 and when the gun actually starts to fire. Menu cursor speed I have on a moderate level. I would mess around with the setting a little bit and try to find a sweet spot that allow you to loot boxes faster, but still have control and allow it to be pretty comfortable. So on to movement / aiming. My look sensitivity I keep at 5, and medius sensitivity I keep at 4. So when you're considering sensitivity, there's really just two main features you got to think about, which is your ability to kind of turn quickly and identify where your enemy is, and then your ability to really aim and hit your shots. So a higher sensitivity in theory allows you to turn on enemies quickly, catch your own mistakes if you get caught out, and also to loot faster, but it could also negatively impact your aim, so you really got to find and strike a good balance. So 5.4 is what works for me, but I definitely experiment with some different settings and see what works for you. I haven't really touched my per optic settings at all because I'm just very comfortable with the defaults, but it definitely might be worth bumping up your sensitivity on higher optics because they really do slow down your aim when you have those equipped. So moving on to response curve, I still think classic is the best option for most people. I really do like the feel of classic after experimenting with linear for a little while. So with linear, you'll definitely hit your shots more with certain guns, like the wingman and certain up close shots, but it'll be hard to hit your shots from range, and it's really difficult to control. Look dead zone I have on none. Again, removing the dead zone delays will allow you to react a little bit faster, so I recommend having this on smaller none unless your controller has a really bad stick drift. Then you may want to bump it up. Movement dead zone I have on small, and I have inverted look off, obviously. Another big one I recommend is that if you don't do this currently, turn vibration off. It'll feel a bit odd at first, but I promise your accuracy will improve a lot. I've been doing this since Call of Duty, and I think that vibration is just a little bit distracting and does negatively impact your aim. So advanced look controls or ALCs I've got off. I've tinkered with these a little bit, but I really just didn't like it, so I kind of leave them alone. For video settings, I have brightness right down the middle, haven't really touched it, and I have my field of view at 102. Personally, this works for me. I recommend having a field of view anywhere from 90 to 104. I think if you put it too high, you won't be able to see targets from distance, but if you're too low, everything just feels way zoomed in and your movement will not feel smooth at all. So it's really balanced. I think any range between like 95 and 105 or something like that is ideal. And finally, I have sprint view shake on normal just because I'm used to it. I haven't really tinkered with it. Some people have it on minimal, so I just try it out. So that's just going to wrap it up for what I think are, the best Season 6 settings. Obviously, these are just my preferences, but I've tried to provide a little bit of logic behind why I play in certain settings and kind of the different aspects and features you should think about when you're considering different settings along with your play style. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and if you enjoyed, consider dropping a like and subscribing for more educational Apex content. That'll be all from me. We catch the dub here at the end of the game if you want to stick around. It's a pretty fun ending, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Honest. 7 a week, 4 health.
There's so many kills on you.
My plan's over there. Last one on that team.
Danger close.
Nope, more than one. More than one. Back up a little bit.
Where's on here? Where's on here? Just right here. Just right here.
We got zone.
Yeah, just right here.
Enemy over there.
Anyone got energy? I got 23. Did that guy have any?
This 129. How much light do you have, DJ? I got one.
I'm spotted.
You drop some, just drop some. I don't need that
Need
much.
to recharge my shields.
There's just one on one of the teams, right? Anyone have batteries? I only got one.
Here.
This I got 8 here. I'm dropping 2.
Oh my. Man, it's been a.
Death box here.
Yeah. No, I don't need anything really.
He's teabagging.
Shield.
Oh, he's behind.
Oh, he's behind us. Is he stuck right there? Is he stuck
No,
right there? Huh?
just pinging. Other team, I push.
Not seeing him.
Nice.
They're coming.
Lifeline 50.
Need lead.
Can't see shit. One to the left over there. Nice. Hug each other. Stay close.
Got him, knocked another one.
Nice. Taking the bat. Other one's coming from my side, I think. Oh no, never mind. Yeah.
Behind you. Good shit. You would teabag us later, huh? What? You would teabagging. We played that so smart.
Apex champions.
I was like 50-50. We either take the
We got in
photo,
right
we
behind.
die.
Got in right behind them.